Hey everyone, welcome back to The Deep Dive. We're taking a look at South Korea today, and a pretty interesting trend that's been popping up there. You sent in this article about frugal consumption. It seems to be like a big thing happening over there.
Yeah, it's a pretty fascinating situation.
So we're going to do a deep dive into this, try to figure out what's driving this shift. Not just, that people are being more careful with their money, but what it really says about the overall economic situation there. We'll look at how it's affecting how people eat, shop, drink, even how they think about inflation.
Yeah, it really touches on a lot of aspects of daily life.
Okay, so let's start with eating out. The article talks about this this rise in these low-cost buffets in Seoul. Like, they're super popular right now, right?
Right, these Korean buffet restaurants, they're attracting a lot of office workers and older folks especially.
And it seems like it's all about affordability. They're a cheaper option than regular restaurants or like grabbing a quick lunch somewhere else.
Yeah, definitely. This is a classic example of what we call recession-style consumption. People are really making a conscious effort to find more affordable options.
Makes sense, especially with the cost of everything going up. Like the article mentioned, even simple things, like coffee or a sandwich for lunch have gotten more expensive.
Right, and those everyday costs really add up.
So then you see this shift in grocery shopping too. It's not just about eating out less. People are actually changing how they shop for food at the supermarket as well.
Absolutely. The article highlights how people are actively hunting for discounts, buying those, those fruits and vegetables that don't look perfect, and stocking up on deals whenever they can find them.
Yeah, like those managers' special bins, right?
Exactly. And it's interesting because you see this sort of like a two-way response. Consumers are demanding more value for their money, and the big retailers, the supermarket chains, they're reacting to that. They're having more clearance sales, offering more discounts, trying to appeal to those price-conscious shoppers.
Yeah, got to stay competitive.
Right. And it's not just limited to fresh produce. The article mentions a pretty big increase in sales of discounted meat and seafood, too. People are really prioritizing affordability over, maybe getting the most picture-perfect cut of meat.
It's like a real shift in priorities. And it goes beyond just food, right? Like even with things like home appliances or electronics, people are looking for ways to save.
Absolutely. The article talks about how sales of refurbished goods have gone up significantly, especially through those home shopping channels. It suggests this broader trend of consumers wanting to get the most bang for their buck, regardless of what they're buying.
Yeah, it's like a whole mindset shift towards being more resourceful. And then let's talk about drinking habits. This is another interesting area where we see changes.
Yeah, the article points out this movement away from enjoying drinks like beer and soju in bars and restaurants. People are increasingly choosing to drink at home, buying from regular stores instead.
So it's not necessarily about drinking less, just about doing it in a more budget-friendly way.
Exactly. People still want to have fun and socialize, but they're being more mindful of the costs associated with that. And I think it's interesting that some restaurants are starting to lower their alcohol prices.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely a response to this trend. They're trying to get those eating customers back in.
Right. They're trying to compete with the convenience and affordability of drinking at home.
Now, looking forward, there's this growing worry about future inflation, right?
Yeah.
Especially with those recent wildfires that have been happening.
Yeah, that's a huge concern. The wildfires have really damaged a lot of agricultural areas. The article mentions how this could seriously impact the availability and prices of fruit and seasonal crops.
And I imagine that's got people pretty anxious about food prices going even higher.
Absolutely. And the government is taking it very seriously. They're actively assessing the damage and putting plans in place to closely monitor prices.
So they're trying to, get ahead of the problem, basically.
Yeah, they want to be prepared to intervene if necessary, especially with the food supply being so sensitive. And there's this other thing the article mentioned, too, about those recent food price hikes by some of the big franchises and manufacturers.
Why, it seems like they're under scrutiny.
Yeah, the regulatory agency is looking into whether these price increases are justified or if there's any collusion happening, especially now. With fewer regulations in place, there's more potential for less ethical practices.
So it's like they're trying to protect consumers from being taken advantage of.
Exactly. Now, the article does point out that overall inflation is still within the central bank's target range.
Okay, so it's not like things are spiraling out of control, at least not yet.
Right. But even though the overall numbers might look okay, the fact that the cost of necessities like food, tuition, and other services are still going up, that has a real impact on how people feel about the economy.
It's that feeling of Like things are getting more expensive, even if, the official inflation rate isn't super high.
Exactly. And the central bank itself acknowledges that there are these external factors, like those wildfires or fluctuations in exchange rates and import costs that could push inflation up even further.
So it's like a lot of uncertainty and potential for things to change quickly.
Right. And that uncertainty is definitely weighing on consumer confidence.
Okay, so to wrap things up, it seems like this trend of frugal consumption in South Korea is a pretty complex reaction to the economic pressures people are facing there.
Yeah, it's not just about saving money. It's about adapting to a changing economic landscape.
And it's affecting everything from the way people eat and shop to their social habits. Really interesting stuff. So for those of you listening, think about your own communities. How are you seeing similar economic pressures play out where you live? And how are people adapting? Are there any subtle shifts in spending habits that might be happening right under your nose? It's worth paying attention to these things and seeing how they reflect the bigger economic picture. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.
Thanks for having me.